Hey guys, Jessica here. So today we're going to talk about managing common breast health issues that are really distressing when they happen. So we're going to be talking about clogged ducts, we're going to be talking about milk blebs, we're going to be talking about mastitis. And before we even get started, I'm going to tell you that this may conflict with a lot of what you're seeing on social media, and you may be working with a lactation consultant that tells you that almost everything I'm about to tell you is outdated because there is a new mastitis protocol that came out probably 18 months ago from the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine. And here's what I'll tell you: the new mastitis protocol doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let me boil this down for you and then explain to you why it may not work for you. So, some of the protocol was good, some of the science in it is definitely an advancement. But when it came to actually managing these issues, you can tell that the person who wrote it is a physician and a breast surgeon who is not the one who's actually in the trenches with moms who are dealing with these issues. So, mastitis is not always infectious. We think about mastitis as a bacterial infection. It's actually not always bacterial. It probably starts as inflammation, and then, depending on your breast health concerns, it could advance to be bacterial. If it was always just inflammation and never advanced to being bacterial, we'd never hear of abscesses. And that is a real thing. And if you've ever seen a breast abscess, you know you don't want anything to do with that. Nobody wants that. I don't wish that on my worst enemy ever. It is horrible. Mastitis itself is horrible, but an abscess is even worse. Clogged ducts are the initial stages of inflammation. That is when a milk duct inside your breast collapses shut, and what you feel as the mom is the backup of milk. But the clog is not a plug like people used to think. Sometimes you will see chunks of stuff that come out of the breast after a clog has passed, but that's just coagulated milk and biofilm that's built up in regards to the pressure from where you had that collapsed milk duct. Milk blebs are what happen when the biofilm and the collapsing happens at the nipple. So milk blebs are a buildup of like a keratinized milk biofilm, not quite a plug. If it was just a plug, it could be removed, but it's not. It's inflammation. All of this is essentially inflammation. What the new protocol said was that the way that we should address it is if your breast is having issues with this, put ice on it, never heat. You take ibuprofen and you nurse your baby. And is that a solid plan? I mean, yeah, if you're a nursing mom, that is probably all it's going to take to clear this issue. What if your baby doesn't latch effectively? What if your baby doesn't latch? What if you have to be separated from your baby? What if you're a pump dependent mom? What if you have massive oversupply? Well, the protocol said you're not supposed to have oversupply, so you really need to check that. So if you have oversupply, you should just like suffer through with the ice and ibuprofen and get rid of your oversupply. Now, what if that doesn't apply to you? What if you have an oversupply that isn't responsive to measures of reducing the supply? What if you're a pumping mom with oversupply and you can't just nurse your baby? What if you're that mom who's been nursing their baby for weeks and weeks on end and is still making excess milk because it's not related to your stimulation? I'm really sorry. This protocol says that you're just tough cookies. You just got to deal. That's not realistic. That is not something I'm going to tell a mom. So we're going to go over some of the strategies that I have seen work in clinical practice and what the pros and cons and what the considerations are with each of those. And if you, again, if people want to leave me comments on this video, I'll deal with it. But I stand by what I'm telling you to do as some of the clinical interventions that I know work. So first thing we need to do is we need to keep the breast healthy, which means we really need to have a good breast emptying plan in place for breastfeeding. That means if your baby's latching, I need your baby's latch to be effective, which means if your baby is not latching effective, if your baby's not feeding properly, we need to address that. If you're pumping, I need your flanges to fit right. I need your bra to fit right. I need your pumping routine to be optimized to help encourage appropriate milk flow. If you have an oversupply and your body's not coping with it very well, which would be when we get these clogs, we get mastitis, we're getting constant breast pain, breast health issues, I need to address that. And there are ways that we can address that, but it's not as simple as just like suffer until it goes away. I don't tell moms to do that. So let's say that you get a clogged duct. The first thing I want you to do while you're scheduling an appointment with me so that I can figure out what in your pumping or nursing management cause this issue to happen, or whether it's breast health related, in which case we may need to get your doctor involved. But that's kind of something we process elimination to find. While you're scheduling your appointment with me, what I want you to do is I want you to start with cool compresses and ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory. Tylenol is a pain management medication. Tylenol is not going to manage your inflammation. So if you are taking Tylenol for your clogged duct, you might be helping your pain. You're not actually helping your situation. If you're taking ibuprofen and Tylenol, that's probably going to be the best results for pain management. And if you are somebody who does not want to use those medications, that is fine. You need to go find an IBCLC who specializes in homeopathic remedies for these challenges. I don't specialize in that. I know that these protocols work, but I don't specialize in them. So I'm not going to talk about them today. There are other IBCLCs that are fabulous for that, and you may love them and they may be more in line with you. But I'm okay with ibuprofen and Tylenol, so that's what I'm going to talk about. So that's what we're going to do in the immediate. You're not going to try to keep the breast empty because that's not how this works. What we want to do is we want to pump and nurse on a regular basis, which means if you are nursing, I want you to be nursing 8 to 12 times a day. If you're pumping, I want you to be pumping every 3 hours during the day, and I want you to be pumping every 1 4 to 5 hour stretch. If you're past the first 12 weeks is okay, but if not, I want you to be pumping every 3 to 4 hours at night. I want you to pump to comfort. I want to make sure that we are not trying to drive more milk supply, but I don't want to allow milk to build up in the breast because that's going to make this inflammatory situation worse. So we're not trying to increase milk supply. There's kind of a fine balance here, and this is where an IBCLC comes in really handy, is that we often have to look at it. There isn't one particular schedule I can give you. I just gave you the best I can give you over social media. But your situation may be different. If you're pumping 3 times a day, maybe we need to bump to 5. If you're pumping 5, we may need to see if we can space them a little bit better. There's always nuance in that. And that's what that ABM new protocol did not capture, is the nuance of this. So we're doing this. We're working on making sure that we are getting effective latching, effective pumping. That means we may have to correct things with baby's latch. We may need to correct how we are addressing those issues. We may need to fix your franchises. So in addition to the cold compresses and the ibuprofen, what we're going to do is something called breast gymnastics. And I'm not the creator of breast gymnastics. Maya Bowman is who I know to be the creator of breast gymnastics. But it's essentially, we're going to lift the breast up and we're going to move it in circles. We're going to move it up and down, and we're going to basically elongate and stretch that tissue. And then we're going to use therapeutic breast massage or lymphatic breast massage, which again, I'm going to link some Maya Bowman videos that I have found to be particularly effective. And what we do is we're moving from the nipple back into the armpit. And we're doing that all the way around. So if you are over here on this side, you're going to move back up here towards the armpit, or you're going to come around and down, because what we're trying to do is, the breast is a low spot in your lymphatic system. We're trying to move the fluid that builds up here with inflammation back into the breast. If you remember back when we talked about what a clogged duct is, it's a collapsed milk duct. It may be collapsed from internal inflammation, but it's most likely collapsed from external inflammation pushing it shut. So if we can move that fluid, we can get a little bit of space. If we get a little bit of space, milk can pass. If milk passed, your comfort is going to improve. So people used to talk about heat. So let's talk about when you could use heat. You want to use heat when you're pumping. So that would be when you take one of these nice little heat packs and use it around the flange. So you're going to put this while you're pumping. If you're nursing, then you would just use it on different parts of the breast. The reason for this is not because the heat is going to melt anything. I don't even know where that idea came from. We can't melt the clog inside of you, because the clog, the most it could be is biofilm and milk fat, and milk fat is not solid at body temperature. So there's no milk fat clog in here to melt. You can't melt it. What you can do with heat, though, is encourage letdown. If you have a partially collapsed pipe and you build pressure up from this side, which is that letdown, when those mammary cells are squished by those fibers that are activated by the oxytocin with the letdown, they may actually be able to force that opening to allow milk to pass. So sometimes we do use heat sparingly, gently, only before or during pumping. And as soon as you get done, if you've used heat, I definitely want you to use cool compresses, because heat can drive inflammation. So it may help in the short term, but we want to use cool compresses more than heat, and we only want to use heat if we're trying to trigger a letdown. What I also want you to do is to get a good probiotic on board. This one is the one I'm going to recommend. This is called Breast Health Plus. It's by Lactation Hub. This is hands down one of my favorite products. It's very rare that I will like marry myself to a product and be like, this product is superior to the others. I will marry myself to this product in a heartbeat. This product is superior to others. What I am seeing is that for my pumping moms who have had these chronic issues, if we work together to address the issues that were driving the inflammation, the flanchising, the latching, the schedules, the supply issues, and we add this Breast Health Plus to the situation, typically we can get the breast back to a place of happy equilibrium, which is good. So that is definitely an option. Now, what if you have nipple damage? If you have nipple damage, I want you to go with this old school remedy, and I want you to do it exactly like I'm explaining here. This is one of those times that we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and saline soaks got a bad rap because if you use saline soaks too frequently or for too long, you can actually cause the tissue to start to break down, just like any other tissue that's staying inappropriately moist. But with nipple wounds, the way I describe it to my clients is that when you have nipple damage, you would not heal a skinned knee by getting it wet and putting it under suction 8 to 12 times a day. But that can be exactly what we're doing with nipples. And we can't just rest your nipple in most cases. When we talk about nipple rest, what we typically mean is you're pumping one side, nursing on the other. And we're using the pump side as the nipple rest because we're trying to heal latching damage. And we can't always fix a baby's latch on the spot. So saline soaks are half a teaspoon of table salt to 8 ounces of warm water to make a homemade saline solution. You're going to soak your nipples in that solution for 1 to 2 minutes. Start with 1, work up to 2 if you're finding that it adds comfort. If you see that the saline soak burns, you definitely need to be working with an IBCLC. It could be that the salt you're using has iodine, which can be uncomfortable, or it could be that you have a bacterial infection, which can result in the skin being very, very raw, and sometimes saline is too much. So it shouldn't burn. It should feel like a warm little spa bath for your nipple. So you soak your nipples using a small bowl or shot glass for 1 to 2 minutes, and that's going to start to heal up those wounds. It's going to keep the nipple skin clean because while most of this issue is not going to be related to bacteria, there is the possibility of an opportunistic bacterial infection, and we don't want that. If you think you have the signs of thrush, which is exceedingly rare and probably not what we're dealing with, this will also help in terms of helping that heal up. And then you're going to apply olive oil or coconut oil. The way that I like to do olive oil is, this is going to be my preference. Of all the things I have tried to heal nipples with, this works most consistently for most moms. And it's just the food grade oil that's in your kitchen. You put it in this lovely travel spray bottle. You don't have to get a fancy one like this. You can just get a plastic one from the toiletry aisle at Walmart or Target. And you spray the nipple down, spray a clean, dry breast pad. This is a time for disposable breast pads because reusable ones can sometimes harbor bacteria. So unless you can properly sanitize them, we might want to use disposables temporarily. The way I keep your skin from sticking to it is, again, spray the nipple, then spray the breast pad, allow that to soak in for just a couple seconds, and then place those two together. You're going to repeat that every time you're pumping or nursing while you're waiting to get in with either me or your IBCLC so we can figure out what's going on. If saline soaks are going to cause issues, you will start to see that the skin will start to look white and soggy, and if that happens, we back off. We just use the olive oil instead of the saline soaks, but I think I've seen that out of, there's 4,000 moms who've come through my practice, and if you talk to most of them, what they will tell you is at some point I did have them do saline soaks to address damage, because most moms come to see me because something's not going well with pumping. So lots of damaged nipples coming through my practice. Saline soaks, maybe 2 or 3 out of those thousands that have done it have had this issue with the macerated tissue, and it's always been that the skin was just too broken down. We backed off and just did the oil for a couple days, and then we were able to resume the saline soaks to speed up the healing. So what if you do all this, or you're like, I need even more immediate relief? Now we're going to talk about a really controversial one because the physician who wrote the new ABM protocol thinks that this is like a scam. This is called castor oil, and it's typically something that you're going to hear about in terms of beauty products for hair growth, or it's going to be in the pharmacy aisle as a laxative. Most of you have probably heard of castor oil in terms of things that you can swallow to help make your baby come out. Um, I will say that's a whole nother video, and I'm going to leave that to the birthing professionals to talk about whether that's a good idea or not. But castor oil can be used. So what you would do is, let's say that you have a clogged area up in here. What you're going to do is you're going to take a soft absorbent cloth. I really like to just rip up an old t-shirt, soak that in the castor oil. You're going to apply that to the skin. You're then going to put a layer of saran wrap. The reason we do that is, one, we don't want to use something that wicks away. So we could use a breast pad, but the breast pad is going to wick. If you wanted to use a breast pad, use the plastic side of the breast pad towards the breast and the castor oil, because we want that castor oil to sit on the skin because it's acting as an anti-inflammatory. What you then do is you take a warm compress, apply it over top of that, wait 10 to 20 minutes depending on your comfort level, and then you would try to nurse or to pump, and then you would follow that up with the cool compress. So castor oil soaks or castor oil compresses are one of the most effective ways that I have found to clear clogged ducts. Sometimes we do have, a spot in the breast that's maybe more prone to it. Typically 2 or 3 castor oil compresses will clear it out enough to keep the relief in combination with the cool compresses and fixing all the other issues. You should not need to use castor oil compresses long term. The biggest risk with the castor oil compresses is that before you nurse or pump, you need to wash the breast, because castor oil is a laxative. So if you are putting a laxative on the breast, you want to wash it off, because we don't want to feed your sweet baby or your pump, which will get into your baby's milk, any type of castor oil. That's also why when we're using oils for nipple healing, I like to use the food grade olive oil, because then if it does get into your baby's mouth or into your baby's milk, it's food grade. I'm not super concerned about it. There is also a tincture that I'm going to talk about. This used to be really popular. It's called Happy Ducks. There's a couple different ones of them out there, but Happy Ducks by Wish Garden is the one that I have found to most consistently work. It tastes awful. It's so, so gross. But as somebody who hates clogged ducts, I had mastitis with my first baby over a decade ago, and I am still traumatized from that experience. I literally can still feel that pain if I think about it. And it was awful. I don't wish that on anybody. This may be nasty, but if you're at the early stages of a clogged duct, this can help. It acts as an anti-inflammatory tincture and helps to encourage milk flow. And what I see when I was pumping is that it seems to speed up the intensity of the letdown. So again, it works to reduce that inflammation. It's encouraging milk flow. It's increasing the letdown so that we can get that milk moving. It typically works within 12 to 24 hours. So if you have a clogged duct, it typically takes 2 to 3 days to fully resolve it. And even after we resolve the milk flow issues, you may actually feel an area of tenderness or bruising for a while. Now, what do you do if this turns into mastitis? If you develop a fever or you develop general feelings of unwellness, I would describe mastitis like wrestling a bear and then catching the flu and then getting hit by a truck. It's like all at once, and it's one of the worst things I've ever experienced. And I did unmedicated childbirth. So if I'm still saying that, still top that, like that tells you how bad I feel about mastitis. It's awful. If you develop those symptoms, I want you to call your doctor. I want you to call your doctor. I want you to talk to your doctor so that your doctor can make that medical judgment on when you need antibiotics. You don't always need antibiotics for mastitis. And sometimes the antibiotics appear to work not because it was bacterial, but because antibiotics are anti-inflammatory. So they have an immediate anti-inflammatory effect in the breast. If you need to take the antibiotics, you definitely want to be following up with an IBCLC, because that's when we need to talk about, one, preventing it, because once you've had mastitis once, you don't want it twice. It doesn't get better. It's not like wine. It doesn't improve with age. So you don't want to get it again. We need to correct whatever was leading to it so that we can manage all these issues. But then we also want to get you on a good probiotic so we can help restore breast health. If antibiotics wipe out bad bacteria, they also wipe out good bacteria. And your breast microbiome is a living microbiome. You have good bacteria that are trying to keep the bad bacteria in check. So if we use antibiotics, we definitely want to resolve that issue with probiotics long term to help encourage better breast health and decrease your risk of these complications. So that is my fast and furious go through of, if you get a clogged duct, here's what to do while you're waiting to get in with me or while you're waiting to get in with another IBCLC. This is definitely an issue where we want to see you work with a skilled IBCLC as quickly as possible so that we can resolve these issues long term. But here are the immediate comfort measures you can consider. Here are the benefits and risks of them. I'm going to put a couple links down below, and if you have any questions, let me know. Again, I understand that some of what I'm telling you to do is out of sync with the latest Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine protocol. I'm okay with that. If you disagree with this, don't do things you disagree with. If you believe in the latest evidence, then please stick to the anti-inflammatories, stick to the nursing, stick to the cold compresses, wait it out, and it will probably be okay. As long as it's not bacterial, in which case you may wait it out until you have a more serious complication. But if you are looking for more immediate measures and want to kind of proactively try to handle this, here are some of the things that you can try. Again, this is all stuff you do while you're waiting to see your skilled IBCLC so that we can work on whatever led to this and make sure that it's not a recurring issue for you. So that is my spiel on all of that. Definitely give this stuff a try. If you're having issues, reach out. I don't want you to suffer. This is really not a super fun part of lactation. It does happen. I hate when it happens, but we do have solutions to help you both in the immediate and long term. So hopefully you're watching this video in preparation in case these things happen and not because you're not feeling real great. And if you're not feeling real great, I really do hope you feel better soon. And if you need me, all my booking links are all below. So hope that helps, and hopefully you never need this video, but if you do, here's what we can try.